The second panel deals with the issues of media, diaspora, and state. First, when I saw this title, I thought, well, exactly. You have two actors which have the privilege of seeing the problem in India from an outside perspective. So while obviously what I learned by the media in India, that it's not that much true, they are heavily involved, sometimes in terms of criminalization and jail and so forth. But I think what has been also in the preparation of the conference, that we tried to have a very open discussion. So we have at least institutionalized actors which are known to be open. The diaspora, in analyzing the situation in India as their home country or their family's home country, and by the media, which by nature should have a very open and a very critical voice as a self-understanding value. And as I have been advocating with Adivasi people from India, I know how important it is to have a kind of echo from towards an inner situation in India. And I hope we will have on the same way a very lively discussion. At least the people present at the panel are very prominent to comply with this expectation. I may introduce Seema. Where is my preparations here? Seema Chishti, she is the editor of the Wahlen, and the Wahlen is one of my sources for my role as editor of a journal in Germany. So many thanks for your really highly valued contribution. She's a journalist since 2019. She has been working with BBC India, among others, with the Indian Express, among others. And she also related stories about corruption, anti-corruption movement, the Indian judicial system, and technology and politics, and so on and so forth. If you are interested in her in more details, go to the website simply. You can get it in Googling the name Seema Chishti. We have, as well as the panel, Aman Wadud. He's a human rights lawyer. He stems from Assam, and he particularly provides support to people in Assam who are at risk of being stripped of their citizenship rights. In Assam, you know that there is this change in the citizenship law, which is, I will be short, which is based on a religious distinction, whether you get rights or not. What for India, according to my knowledge, at least is very, very unusual. It's not very historical frame. And in the most recent time, he plays a bigger role also now in the politics. He joined the Indian National Congress and was recently appointed a convener of the party's leadership development mission in Assam. Correct me if I have listened something wrong. The third one is Rasheed Ahmed. His family stems from India, but he is based in the United States. He is the founder and the president of the International Council of Indian Muslims. He is also the executive director of the Indian American Muslim Council, the US oldest and largest organization representing the Indian Muslim diaspora. And what also was impressing me, that he is focusing on community building, the issues of community building, social justice, and building bridges among diverse communities. It couldn't be better choosing this panel for our discussion. And I asked all three to be as concentrated on the time limits of 20 minutes as possible, for also allowing us some discussion. And this also refers to me. I am now shutting up and give the words to you.
Thanks so much. So So I was just very keen that nobody falls asleep, so I just stand and wander around and stay. And I mean, power corrupts. There's been a lot of discussion around that, and they say power quite corrupts absolutely. And we must straight away indulge in that. So this is just to hold your attention a little more. A lot of what I say may be well known to particularly people from India, and also you all who are watching it closely. But I hope to just put out none of this breaking news, but available information in a particular framework in which Indian media is kind of has evolved and is evolving to like a very dangerous place. And 2024 is for the possibility, but also some horror scenarios which are waiting for us. So just very briefly, what is Indian media? I'm racing, you see, because I need to keep the 20 minutes, so 10 minutes like too fast. But just the whole scope of it, I mean, it stuns even sort of people who like swim in this pool all the time. We have 100,000 newspapers, including 36,000 weeklies. We have almost 400 television news channels. Forget about other information channels. You have vast amounts of concentrated kind of ownership of Indian media already existing. And this works across languages in India, whether it's Marathi, whether it is Bengali, whether it is Hindi. And you see this concentration of networks, which has gone and infected the television networks. So it's kind of across media as well. And it's been allowed to operate over decades now. You have the state-owned All India Radio, which controls all radio news. So there is no such thing like radio news. So the whole tradition of something audio coming to your ears, which is news, is only perhaps the BBC, VOA a bit. It's basically all state controlled. And in the middle of all this, you have smartphones. So of the 1.4 billion Indians that you have 650 million smartphone connections. So according to data, some people have more than like 2 connections. So phones are a big thing, which because of low data prices have also become purveyors of news, information, and misinformation. They add to the media spectrum. So media is not just traditional media, but all ways in which information is gathered and put out. And India is the largest market by the number of hours spent on video streaming apps at 194 billion hours annually or something. And it's a big market for that. So that's the focus. There are a few points I just quickly repeat to make you know what's happened from 2014 to 2024. India on May 3, the reporter Seema Chishti told us, was at 159 in the bottom 21 countries of 180 countries that are evaluated in the World Press Freedom Index. And we've seen sharp falls, but really sharp falls in the past 10 years. We weren't doing so badly, but things have kind of tanked over the past 4 years. There are dead journalists. There are 11 who died since 2019. But other than death, there is incarceration, there is physical attack, there are potential of facing more violence, violent demonstrations. On the digital front particularly, and we had that conversation at the introduction itself, that if you're a journalist, and particularly a woman journalist, and your name does not kind of tally with what people want it to tally with, you're personally kind of tarnished. Your reputation, connections, we know where you live, we know who you are regular things that journalists of a spectrum kind of face. Cyberbullying and digital surveillance have been on the rise. And as a result of these combined assaults, newsrooms and the media are also experiencing mental health stress. That's like a genuine big problem in our newsrooms, in alternate media particularly. There is a whole new protocol we have to kind of examine our colleagues, our younger colleagues for mental health situations. Media ownership has got further skewed, as I said earlier, it always was. Adani has acquired NDTV, Mr. Adani, the richest kind of Indian in India, and then he periodically jumps to number 2 and then comes back in. There's an increasing footprint of Mr. Ambani, which is not to be underestimated. He's picked up a whole swathe of kind of local ETV, the whole ETV network, CNBC, TV18, and he's now planning to partner with Disney. So on the OTT space, by offering cricket, and offering this kind of really capturing the hearts and minds, if you like, of people through complete and total media control. Mr. Ambani is also not to be kind of underestimated. That's the media ownership situation. The dependence on government advertising is up, and this is before the election, really. The advertising to print media is really helping. Government advertising is what print media directly depends on. The Modi government has spent over rupees 30 billion on advertising since 2018. Print media tops the list. This is as per their answers in Parliament. This is government data. And over 9.46 billion on print advertising. This was as told in December again. in a reply to Parliament. So there's deep dependence on government advertising on print, which is otherwise experiencing a moment of decline because of tech. So features defining today's landscape, I will detail on these earlier. It's essentially, there's plenty of baggage before 2014. So chiming a little bit with what Ifan said, it's not as if that there's a great golden age that Indian media was going through before this. So there's all that baggage that we're cutting. There is now political total control, an expectation that media means usually mean the service of the law. It is not just meaning you'll shut up or you'll keep quiet. You actually kind of put forth what the government wants you to say. You're part of the whole propaganda sort of machine, if you like. There are structural issues here which have to do with the Indian economy, technology, and ownership, which color the kind of or the pathways that Indian media opts for. And fourth is what I like to call self-therapy. That is kind of more about what journalists themselves, what they bring in to this mix, which makes things tougher. Pre-2014, you had a poor state of Indian media, not due to post-2014 alone, because since liberalization, information has been a commodity, very clearly recognized as that by the journalists such as myself, my colleagues, owners of media who thought of it as a commodity. We were very happy to kind of twin the 3 C's as a media analyst, Tusu pointed out. There was cricket, crime, and cinema. So all of that really dominated the airspaces, and there was very merging of information, soap opera, and all that was just becoming one. And technology decided to come in through the window and completely demolish things, because through the digital kind of world had started creeping in before 2014. So the whole revenue model for Indian media was collapsing. There no revenue model other than government ads. And you have a phenomenon called paid news, where respectable Indian media outlets, which include the largest English newspaper, had actually a contract in place where they go to an MP and say that, what do you want? And you could say things like, I want an editorial, I want a masthead reference sometime, and I want a picture and maybe a reference on the sports page to my nephew who's playing in the football team. What's the price of that? And you and I as readers would not know that this has been paid for. So all those practices were in place before Mr. Modi kind of took charge. After Mr. Modi takes charge, I have a long kind of a list of what happened. I'll just go through this briefly. Some of which has been kind of referred to already by Mr. Iyer about journalists being in jail. NewsClick is in for terror charges for reporting. Earlier, they wanted to fix a journalist. They try and find a spurious kind of financial problem. Now, we have the Kashmir model in place. That is, you will be arrested and picked up for reporting or wanting to report. So you had somebody like Sadiq Kappan who was in jail for 2 years for intending to report. For a report he did not write. He was in jail for 2 years. So you have that way, that's like acting as, killing the sort of rooster to scare the monkey. Those kind of models have been in place. You have information, IT rules, intermediate rules which apply on all Facebook, Twitter, etc. All Big Four are meant to follow those rules, which are worse than the emergency. And the emergency, we must remember, was under a statute, under the rule of the Indian Constitution, under an article of the Indian Constitution. So it was constitutional, if you like, in that sense. And it was only for 22 months. We've had this in place for like almost a decade. This has been creeping up, but you have this kind of place where the offer of codependency, as the writer put it, to big tech. That is, you have your share of market, you do that, and you also play by my rules. So a bit of carrot and stick has been on with Twitter, Meta, Facebook, Google, whole lot of things kind of keep happening. Now, recently, there's conversation that they want Dhruv Rathi, who's a big influencer, and Ramesh to register as professional creators so that government rules can then kick in and start applying. The government publicity wing, which is the PIB, the Press Information Bureau, has arrogated to itself the business of being a fact-checking unit. So they will decide what's okay and not okay, and this is by law. So we have to, if the law goes through, we have to actually take down anything the fact-checking unit deems as incorrect. What they see as false, misleading. So they're at the mercy of a government propaganda, whose job is to do government propaganda. They should do that. But the whole business of arbitrating what is true or not true, questions the world is wrestling with, have been handed over to this fact-checking unit. A lot of this is in court. It's being kind of contested, but that's the government plan. There is a telecom bill which has come into effect on the 26th of June, by which the government can go in and seize telecom equipment from any of the authorities. They need to, there's also something about wanting to break encryption. We don't know how far, we need to look at the wording of that, how, are they really intending to break encryption? But they intend kind of really scaring everybody by putting this telecom bill in. And there's a broadcast bill draft, which is also in the works, that really hasn't been presented, which brings news in the kind of a censor certificate regime that cinema has in India. So cinema and all that need to get a censor certificate before they're publicly screened. Now they want news to also have a grievance, editorial committee. Actually, the word editorial is not there. There's some other very dodgy name. We need to have a committee which is in place, which will be responsible for everything that we put out. And we need to respond to questions, so you just make it so difficult for small outlets, independent units, etc., in the name of curbing misinformation. So it's a very deeply kind of systematic, thought through Orwellian exercise where you use things like curbing big tech, curbing the big guy. For India, poor country, plural, we need to preserve the space, have less misinformation, but you're actually going after. Show me the person and I'll show you the rule. We know who all those rules will go after. That's the kind of scenario, the structural context in which India finds itself in. So sorry. Yeah, and then there is what I said, the self and the selfie issue. This is important because there were also previously journalists in business houses who were like very accommodating to the BJP, felt the way the BJP did. They were ideologically, connected to the BJP. There's been a coming out kind of party of those people who now openly kind of say that Mr. Modi is a great person when he says, I'm non-biological. That didn't even go through any of the questions. We should have kind of followed that kind of claim. And this again comes, Reuters did a survey with News Laundry of the caste proposition of newsrooms. It's like horrible. It's pretty much, you just have a skew of caste, which is embarrassing for me to even that outline. You just need to go and look at names and things. And the ownership has got more skewed because those who are to be reported on, whether it's Mr. Ambani or Mr. Adani, are the ones owning the media. So you can just imagine the close pool this is about what news they're going to put out and how they benefit from, because there's still intersection between government and industry and big industry. So it's just like, how free can this be? There are telephone calls and WhatsApps on WhatsApp messages which come in, which are sources pulling and stuff follows, which media is expected to, and they do, put it out because you don't get any conversation from the government. They tell you that this is the government view, and there's still deniability. So we put out that view as a government's view, but without really any, they can turn around and say, hey, we never said that. We never sat as that. You just made it up. So that's started happening, and that's very common. And that's a source, the thing in the middle is a source of a lot of stuff you see as government say, which can always be denied by them. The government media is also scared because a lot of business houses have other businesses. They always do. They have rice businesses, they have real estate, mining, all of that. So all of that gets endangered if you don't play ball with the government. So they are worried about that. That acts as a restraint with such a demanding government. And then there's genuine self-doubt. I want to really talk about the reason for why Mr. Modi would project with so many crowds, because I'm sitting alone somewhere writing an editorial or thinking something very independent. I'm actually going to get intimidated if Mr. Modi has like a crowd of 1 million, because what's my view? Who am I compared to that? The constant projection of the leadership thing acts as a genuine moment of self-doubt for even very confident senior editors, veteran editors who should have taken up. So that's, I think, the selfie moment here. So before the elections, we saw a very bold framing of saying 400 plus. Mr. Modi will cross 400 seats. That's the kind of projection he just gave by drawing such a big line that you got completely distracted into just using that as the standard without looking at what's happening on the ground. That's again a case of, hey, look, like you're trying to feed a child and you say, just look at that shooting star. So and media fell in for that, and it kept talking about an inept opposition. There's a broken both-sidism that happens in the media, that you need to kind of this view versus that view. So the earth is round and the earth is flat, and you put the scientist and the loony on the same table to kind of give equivalence and then allow for that kind of disjunction of what is really true to kind of take place. There's no explanation even in pink papers, in our economy papers, and Ruby has hit a historic low, which it has several times. It pushed onto page 8 of the Indian brief. Whereas the previous dispensation, it was made much of. There was so much hangama in Ms. Manmohan Singh's time when the rupee was panicking. So there's all of that. There's been no conversation on unemployment, virtually nil. There's no questioning the ruling party. Even if there's a hurricane, we asked Rahul Gandhi what he did. And this is before he became leader of the opposition. There are only debates now. So there's no discussion. So the whole idea is posited between one idea and the other idea. And so you just create a sense of just everybody's fighting all the time. There's no discussion. There's no amicable kind of trying to arrive at some kind of a reasonable, situation. Images and videos, there's dependence on news agencies of very dubious nature, who, because newspapers who have their online versions do not have the ability to do their own shooting. So they just pick up visuals that are available, which are, of course, available by only certain agencies, which then put that out. And the last but not the least is zero press conferences by an Indian Prime Minister in 10 years. You've never had that situation. In COVID as well, you had chief ministers in India who were taking questions and answering every day, but not the Prime Minister of India, and nobody elected. No elected member of Mr. Modi's cabinet addressed the media at all. I think it's the first in the world. We had so many kind of people lose their jobs and be accountable. There's no accountability. The minute that also means that you're up for accountability. So there was none of that. So there's zero press conferences. Some examples which you may find amusing and shocking. There's a willful surrender of, I don't think anyone asked me literally to do this, but that was their cover when the Babri Masjid was demolished, 1992. And this is how they were in February 2024. That says in Hindi, Ram is coming. And that, of course, says nation's shame. The Indian Express on the 22nd of January, when all of that happened, stripped into context. The Indian Express is an old paper. It practices journalism in Spanish. It's it's very renowned paper, which has volumes of data of their own paper of what happened. But it's stripped of context, and it's just January 2024, which Mr. Modi wanted, that the soul of India was freed, as Harsh put it, on that day. So that gives him that space. Then this is the most read Hindi newspaper called Dainik Bhaskar. This is in April, this is 1st of April 2024, and it's not Lord Food's Day joke, but this is a time when people here, and several prominent people here, were talking about electoral bonds. They were out, discussing the whole business of electoral funding in India was up for discussion. They put up news, which is the lead there, which says across at the LOC, tourists can stay in air-conditioned television bunkers for purposes of for tourism. So you can go there and enjoy some tourism. So that's a way in which you're sort of gamifying or tourist-defying a grave kind of line of actual control situation in Kashmir. This is how a premium paper in Gujarati called Sandesh put out the Prime Minister's interview. I don't think Mr. Modi is available to be photographed like that for the interview. He gave the interview, he did physically in different clothes, but that's how it's positioned with the saffron, with everything. So we don't even need to know the translation. I don't even know it, but we don't need to know the translation of this to see about this, the kind of positioning. And I deliberately picked these papers because they aren't typically what was referred to earlier as Modi media, which is, So they're practicing what's called error 404 journalism, which is kind of just your own journalism was missing, your own past, record was missing. And the elections have seen kind of this whole problem, and which I'll just get onto that. The young demographic, where the political education is in large part also due to media. This is just not happening, which is dangerous for India and its future. Because right now you're preparing people for what should be their kind of information which they learn as 20-year-olds, which should be the basis of what they start believing in and which stays with them. India Today, there was kind of analysis done by News Laundry. India Today behaved spectacularly, interestingly. And they found that they looked at 53 issues of India Today before, and they saw the lionizing of Mr. Modi in every single space. This is News Minute tracking television channels, and it found that, I'll just alert you to the 1.1% of the discussions were devoted to unemployment, which is like the biggest burning issue which Indians were concerned about. So basically, I'll kind of almost end with this, that you have a media-enabled public sphere. So between what was spoken in the panel before us, the societal and the political problem, I think the midwife there is the media of information available, which kind of in which we all operate, or we realize that this is good sense, or this is what's good, and it's okay to say this. It's okay to say that some Muslims should be killed, or we should attack Christians, or conversion is bad. That this whole sphere is the media is allowing all this to become acceptable. Televisions sets are on all day in homes, even if others have stopped, kind of along the elite have stopped watching it. And we're enabling the creation of public space, which along with how the Archaeological Survey of India behaves, the way our textbooks behave, and the way WhatsApp groups behave, to kind of create this space. Okay. Yeah, so I mean, this is something which kind of Vanita Polikhandekar, who looks at the media business, she put it very well. She looked at the she looked at the results of this election and concluded that 235 million had voted for the BJP, as per the percentages and all that she calculated. So you have 407 million Indians left unattended, because this time mainstream media is only catering to those who kind of believe or who you want to convert to the BJP cause. And so she says that there's like a whole kind of an emergency for these 407 million who are now going online. And so there is this whole avenue, I don't want to call it market, but there's this opportunity and the social need to put out information of the public good for those who are remaining. And Joydeep Pal and his team have done very interesting research on the disappearing middle ground of media. So you need a kind of, even if it's like a bourgeois media space, you need a center to be able to just make sense of stuff. And you can have things here and there in a plural democracy of grave inequalities that India is. When that middle goes missing, what's happening now is that you have this extreme polarizing right-wing media, which so-called big media or legacy media, I don't want to call it mainstream, has gone over there. So you have the other side also, which also is a risk of going kind of, falling off the edge, because, just because there's no middle, and it's like, I suppose, a physics proposition that, what happens at that side? So that is not exactly leading to sort of very good, a healthy contribution, a public debate, a space, and I think this has a grave disservice to democracy, because media's core jobs are informing people, providing a forum for discussion, accountability, financial accountability of the government is not being done.
Many thanks, Seema, for this very instructive insight. And I would like to request you to take the floor for your contribution.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Would like to thank the Professor Mukherjee for including this topic, the conference on Indian democracy. The citizenship consultation in Assam has been going on very long, where the Muslims are, Bengali citizens are regarded as illegal migrants. And now, in this election, you have seen how the Indian Prime Minister have called the entire 200 million Muslims as Muslims. During my presentation, I will try to prove how what is happening in Assam, or what the BJP is trying to do in Assam, will have far wider ramifications, and how it might decide which way the Indian democracy might go. I will start with a bit of history. Who the people are who are regarded as infiltrators or Muslims or illegal migrants in Assam. It's mostly the Bengalis, the Hindus and Muslim alike. The Bengalis started coming to Assam with the British, when the British took over from the Burmese after the Underwood Treaty in 1826. So they came with the British for clerical works. In 1870, there was a peasant revolt in Pabna, which is now in Bangladesh, where there was a rise in tenancy rate. And that was the first wave of Muslim coming to Assam. And my great-grandfather was migrated during that period of time. After 1870s, he initially came to a place in Dhubri now, and then subsequently to a place which is 50 kilometers west of Guwahati. In 1905, the Bengal was partitioned into west and east Pakistan. East Bangladesh, East Bengal, and what is now Bangladesh was East Bengal. And after the partition, the capital of Assam, because both were clubbed together, the East Bengal and Assam was same administrative unit, and Dhaka was the capital of Assam, the present Assam, the East Bengal for 7 years. And then there was a separate administrative unit. So during that period of time, the British came up with a policy called Grow More Food, by which they promoted migration of Bengali Muslim peasants to Assam. So that led sort of an exodus of Bengali Muslim peasants from East Bengal to Assam. By 1930, the Census Commissioner, Mr. C.S. Mulan, he said that around 500,000 people, mostly Muslims, came to Assam. Mr. Radha Komal Mukherjee, in his book, The Changing Face of Bengal, he says between 1900 to 1930, at least 1 million Bengali Muslim peasants Bengali peasants came to Assam. And of course, before 1947, every migration that happened was legal and it was not illegal. By 1951, the Muslim population of Assam was 24.7%. Post-independence, a lot of arbitrary eviction happened. So during the time the migration was taking place, there was a resistance from the people. My grandfather told me that by 1930 till 1932, our home was burned down around 3 times. And then some British administrator came and then he gave us the land document. And after that, our home was secured. It was not burned down, it was not attacked after that, after 1932. Our first land document came in 1938. Then there was a language movement of which language to make the official language movement, and the Bengali Muslims particularly, they supported the Assamese language and started calling them Assamese. I am a Bengali Muslim, but I write my mother tongue in Assamese. And this is because my ancestors, they agreed that we will give up our mother tongue and we will accept Assamese as the mother tongue. Post-independence, like I said, arbitrary election, there were quit India notices and this was completely arbitrary. Then the Muslim leadership, they protested and then they thought of making something more institutionalized and accusing people of being illegal migrant. As you know, in 1979, an Assam movement started, which was a mass movement to evict from Assam so-called illegal Bangladeshis, where the Nelly massacre happened, where more than 2,000 people were massacred. Muslims were massacred by branding them as Bangladeshis. Even New York Times called them as Bangladeshis. And they were there since very long. In 1926, when our first president, Mr. Rajendra Babu, he went for a Congress session there. And he passed through those areas in Delhi. And then he wrote in his book about how there were small huts coming up. And people from Memansingh district are coming on settlement in 1926. And these are the people who were killed in 1983 by branding them as Bangladeshis. So after the end of the Assam movement, the government signed an Assam Accord, by which any migrants who came till 25th March 1971 was regularized. And then there is a process called 3D started: detect, delete, and deport. So they basically an entire citizenship contestation regime started in Assam, and this happened under the Foreigners Act. Now this is a colonial act, and the legal home of this act is 1939 Foreigners Ordinance and 1940 Foreigners Act, and this was a wartime legislation. This was brought after the Second World War to stop the people, coming to Assam, coming to India, and this is a wartime legislation now being used or sort of wage a war against its own citizens. Under the 1946 Foreigners Act, the burden of proof is reversed. It's on the accused to prove. If you are accused of being a foreigner, you need to prove that you are an Indian citizen. Even if you are accused of murder, the burden of proof to prove that the person is guilty is on the state. But here, just if you are accused of being an illegal migrant, the burden of proof is on you. So if you don't appear, suppose a notice is issued to you as a tribunal. If you don't appear, you will be declared foreigner by an ex parte order. So just before coming here, a case was remanded back to the tribunal. This person called Yusuf Ali, he was declared as a foreigner in 2005. His brother Ismat Ali was declared a foreigner together. Now they didn't appear because they were citizen of they were native of Deoria district in UP. Their father came in 1951. And since then they were living here. So when the notice came, they thought that we are from UP. Why should we be accused of being foreigner? They didn't appear, declared as foreigner by ex parte order. Ismat Ali was picked up. He was in detention for 28 months. The case went to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court ordered a CBI investigation. CBI investigation say that Ismat is from UP from the Deoria district of Uttar Pradesh. His brother went back to Uttar Pradesh, Yusuf. He came back and then he filed the case. And recently, this week, the case has been remanded to the tribunal. So that's how, if you don't appear, you can be declared as foreigner by ex parte order. Foreigners Tribunal was set up by 1964 Foreigners Order. And in India, the tribunals are basically constitutional. It has a constitutional code. It is created by legislation. Foreigners Tribunal is the only tribunal in India which is created by an executive order. And the people who the chair the tribunals are lawyers. Now, if you are 7 years, if you have 7 years experience or 10 years experience, you can become a tribunal member, and this is on a contractual basis. So basically, these are the people who are deciding citizenship of Indian citizens, and I will tell you why. I'm repeatedly telling that Indian citizens are accused of being foreigners. So it is a contractual job. In 2017, the BJP government did not extend the contract of 19 tribunal members. When they came to the High Court, there is an assessment report which says that these people, this member underperformed. Why? Because they were declaring more people as an Indian. That is the benchmark of underperformance. If you are declaring more people as an Indian, you are underperforming. So that created a fear among the tribunal member not to want to perform. How? By declaring Indian citizen as foreigners. There is a presumption of non-citizenship. If you are accused of being foreigners, immediately there will be presumption that you are a non-citizen. And why this happened? So in 1983 there was an act called IMT Act, Illegal Migration Determination by Tribunal, where the burden of proof was on the state. So the former Chief Minister, Mr. Sarvando Sonwal, he challenged it before the Supreme Court. And in the Supreme Court, he annexed a report by S.K. Sinha, was the governor of Assam. And largely because of that report, the Supreme Court struck down. That's not the news. The news is that the way it struck down, the kind of observation is made, it becomes citizenship jurisprudence in Assam, in India, and it had far wider implication. And I will just quote few lines from that report, which was quoted verbatim in the Supreme Court order. It says, Daskishna's report says, quoted by the Supreme Court, the influx of these illegal migrants is turning these districts into a Muslim majority region. It will then only be a matter of time when a demand for the merger with Bangladesh may be made. So they are basically talking about Muslim majority districts. The rapid growth of international Islamic fundamentalism may provide for driving force for this demand. This is 1998 report. 26 years on, no such demand has been made. But in 2005, the Supreme Court thought this is gospel truth, and it quoted in that judgment, and that's how IMDb was struck down. That's how the entire citizenship jurisprudence was built up. Now, because of that judgment, because of the observation made in that judgment by the Supreme Court, the entire political narrative also changed. Now, if you go to any court of law, they will quote that judgment. Even when the NRC was ordered by December 17, 2014, order by the Supreme Court, the bench of this is Gogoi and Nariman, they extensively quoted from Sarvando Sonwal judgment, and including what Mr. S.K. Sinha said. So these also led to the segregation of Muslims, because this entire observation was totally communal, and migration was given a communal tone. There was, of course, undertone, but it gave an institutional tone. So now, before the tribunal, how you are accused of being a foreigner. Now, there are basically some so-called investigation agencies. One is Assam Border Police Organization. So they are basically stationed in all police stations across Assam. There are few police personnel. So that job is to stop influx. So what they do, they don't come across illegal migrants. So they accuse Indian citizens of being foreigners. One of the prime example is Mr. Sanaullah, who is my client. He served the Indian Army for 30 years. And he was declared as a foreigner by the tribunal. And how was he accused? That the border police forged his thumb impression, made it a confessional statement on a day when Sanaullah was serving in Manipur as an Indian Army for a counter-insurgency program called Difasa, which is security. Basically, when he was securing India, he was being accused of being illegal migrant by the Assam Border Police. And when he was declared as a foreigner, he was a constable with the Assam Border Police. Now, the High Court has declared him as an Indian, and guess what? The Border Police is taking him back. He is now a constable with the Assam Border Police. The same Border Police is sent him to the detention center. Another bit of information. He submitted 26 documents before the tribunal. One of the documents was by APJ Abdul Kalam, where he was made a JCO, Junior Commission Doctor.
and he submitted it and the tribunal rejected it. Because the issuing authority did not come before it to prove and say that this is document I have issued. So let me break this down. This is the expectation of the tribunal, that someone from the president office should come and say for the tribunal, a member who is on contractual basis, that they have issued this document. They did not come, the document was rejected. As I was sitting here, and I was very agitated, and I was talking to Mohsin Bhai when Mr. Munda was speaking. On my WhatsApp, one of my clients, I will not name him, sent me a notice. Basically, his father was an Afghani. He came to Assam. He was given a citizenship. He had passport. His son also had a passport. He wanted to come to Gulf country, but when he went to renew his passport, it was cancelled. So we challenged before the High Court, and he was called to the local border police. And I was under the impression there will be verification. Today he has received a notice to prove his citizenship. This is how arbitrary it can become. And once you are called to the tribunal to prove your citizenship, how do they declare you as a foreigner? It's not because of lack of document. There are no undocumented migrants. These are people who provide documents. Like I said, Muhammad Sanaullah, 26 documents, 1951 NRC, a document issued by the President of India, still you are losing your citizenship. Now, there was one, if you read the amnesty report, designed to exclude, there is a case where this person whose grandfather name was Afer Ali, and in one document is written as AFER, Afer Ali. The learned tribunal says, oh, this APER and AFER are not one and same person. So if there is a problem with even with one letter, or if there is a discrepancy, is a variation in one spelling mistakes or age discrepancy, you might be declared as a foreigner. Mr. Madan Nukur, I would like to quote him. He says about this nuance. He said there are many nuances. There's a dodging way of spelling Muhammad. All this have to be considered and looked into. Just because there is a spelling mistake and you say the person is not a citizen and that is a foreigner needs to be detained, that is a stretch. That is stretching things too far. That's where one has to look at it in a compassionate and sympathetic manner, in a realistic manner. What is the state trying to look at? If it is looking at who is a foreigner, then just because there is a spelling mistake does not make a person a foreigner. Now, I would say it's just like common sense. If you say that APER and AFER is a different person, you just need a common sense to believe that these are the same person and these are not different persons. So basically, this is how Indian citizens are being declared as foreigner. I have fought in the last more than 10 years, 11 years now. I have fought more than 700 cases. And I have not come across, and I say this with all responsibility, all convictions, I have not come across one person who does not have a document. Each and every person is documented. Now, a report in the Chief Minister in February 2014 said that 159,000 people have been declared as foreigners. And I believe that because I have not come across one person who doesn't have a document. I believe these people are all Indian citizens. The way they have been declared as foreigner is uniform. Spelling mistakes, some variations, it's uniform. And there is inherent gender bias. I will explain how. So the most popular document or an admissible document for the tribunal is a voter list. So till today in Assam, child marriage is very much there. If a woman gets married before turning 18, and before 1989, the minimum age was 21. So if you are getting married before 21, before 1989, and now before 18, so your name is recorded in the voter list with your husband and not your parent. So the moment your name is there in the voter list with your husband and not your father and mother, you lose that lineage certificate or lineage document. You can't prove through that voter list that I am a daughter of my father or my mother. So because it is the evidentiary value is very high, you lose that document. In absence of such document, what you submit documents which are secondary document, and evidentiary value is not very high. You, like this tribunal member says, that you need to bring someone from the president office to prove that this document is authentic. So, but in voter list you don't need that. So because of that reason, women are getting more as declared as a foreigner. Even in the NRC, you see there are a large number of women and children who have been excluded from the NRC. So once you are out of, you have been declared as a foreigner, you need to be deported. Now, if you are not, you are kept in detention center before you are deported. So detention is not a penal consequence. It's a waiting hall, kind of waiting hall to be deported. Now, how do you detain a person declared as a foreigner? To deport a person, the country of origin need to confirm your nationality. Now, when Sanallah was kept in detention center, how could he be deported? Because he is from Assam. He belongs to this place. Why will Bangladesh confirm your nationality? Mr. Harshmander and Mr. Prashant Bhushan went to the Supreme Court. I will talk about that. The government of Assam filed an affidavit saying that they have deported since 13/3/2013. They have deported only 4 people. People who are declared as foreigner, only 4 people have been deported. And I'm surprised why they didn't find this 4 people. Because all these declared foreigners are actually Indian citizens. So when you cannot be deported, you are detained indefinitely. In 20, the detention center came in 2010. Since then, people were detained till 2019. And Mr. Harshmander challenged the indefinite detention, and the Supreme Court reduced the detention to 3 years. So there was a limitation that once you cross 3 years, or then you should be released. And we again went to the Supreme Court, and it was reduced to 2 years. So now, if you are declared as a foreigner, and if you do not get a bail from the higher court, then you should be in detention for more than 2 years, for 2 years. And after 2 years, you will automatically released by certain conditions.
May I ask you to come to
Yeah. So there is again NRC, which is sort of another investigation instrument. So in NRC, the entire state was asked to prove his citizenship. And because I don't have much time, so I just want to tell this: the entire thing is the ultimate result of the entire thing is dignity of individual. During the NRC, I received this call from a Bengali Hindu professor, 77-year-old mathematics professor from Dharan College. So after Cotton College, that is the best college in Assam. And he called me and he was speaking in English. Generally, I don't receive call in English in Assam. And he was saying that Aman, you are a lawyer, please help me. I said, how do I help you, sir? He said, my name is not there in the first list of NRC, and I have been asked to prove my biometrics. And I don't want to submit my biometrics. And I said, authorities have called me, and this is it. You need to submit your biometrics. I said, sorry, I've called a lawyer. I will request you to go and appear before the authorities and submit your biometrics, because this is the rule by the central government ratified by the Supreme Court. And then there's a pause. And he breaks down. And he says, it hurts my dignity. It hurts my dignity. And this person, I have never heard from anyone talking about dignity. From my clients who are mostly poor. So this person is 77-year-old, all his peers could be from the majority community, from the classmates community. They have not been called to submit their biometrics. Because he was dropped from the NRC first place, and he was asked to submit his biometrics. Now, a lot of people who were under the fear of losing citizenship during the NRC give up their life, committed suicide. Before I finish, I would just like to take you to the CAA, who was recently brought, and the government propagated this act saying that it will protect the non-Muslims, the Hindus. Now, the schedule 1 of this rule, citizenship rule, says that if you want to get protection under CAA, you need to submit list of few documents. 1 document will be enough, but those documents are approved issued by the government of either the 3 countries, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Bangladesh. Under the schedule 1C, you need to declare, and I read that I am an Afghan/Bangladeshi and Pakistani national belonging to these 6 communities. Now, a large number of Bengali Hindus from Assam have been excluded from the NRC, and they are Indian citizens. Now, if they want protection under the CAA, 1, they will have to document under Schedule 1A, which should be issued by Bangladesh, and 2, they will have to say that I am a Bangladeshi national. During NRC, they have already said that we are an Indian citizen. Now, the chief minister is saying that there is no one who is going to apply for CA protection under the CAA. But he's not talking about that even Bengali Hindus excluded from the NRC, they do not want to apply. Why? Because they don't want to declare themselves an opposition. Thank you so much.
Many thanks, Aman, for these details on an arbitrary system. And probably we will go into a deeper discussion afterwards. Now I would like to invite Rasheed to share with us his experience and his assessment on how Indian democracy is turning out.
Thank you. Thank you. Theo was showing time to Aman. He was so engaged, he couldn't see it. So I am going to bill Aman for my time later on. But I won't take that much time. I'll just make a couple of remarks to keep the schedule. I had mentioned to Theo. Just a couple of remarks. In the discussion earlier with Harsh Mandar and Mr. Iyer, there was one remark made by Harsh Mandarji that I'm paraphrasing, the problem is RSS. The discussion usually goes on the BJP and politics. And there was another comment made by Professor Irfan that he was suggesting that actually the democracy itself is not there in the or however he wanted to project it. That there are few historical, as far as I remember the history, what Aman just said about all the issues about citizenship, and he mentioned a date also, 2010 date, the detentions. And who was in the, who was running the state? Not BJP. And I remember I was younger when Narasimha Rao was prime minister, then Rajiv Gandhi and all that. I heard this. Somebody can, deny it or confirm it. RSS was helping these governments. And RSS recently has said, and this I heard, that we are party, nation building party, we will help any party wants to do nation build. Doesn't matter BJP or any other. So I agree with Harsh Bhai, the problem is RSS. And the other problem we have in the community who are very much concerned about it, and not just concerned about it, but actually doing something or speaking about it. The problem we have is, or the situation we have is, I think one word which was repeatedly said, many people is fear. There is a fear about it. And I was just looking for the responses to the fear, the human responses to the fear. One is fight, flight, freeze, and farm. With all due respect to this institute and Dr. Mukherjee, the central issue of this whole issue is RSS, and other by way of that, the central issue is Hindu supremacy. But we don't want to utter the word, not even mention it anywhere. We will just talk around the whole thing about democracy and constitution and everything, but we don't want to talk about the issue itself and the ideology itself. And this ideology proved to the making it using it, exploiting the term world is a family, which is a wonderful thing, which comes from Hinduism ethos, exploiting this term, that using that philosophy, the same ideology of hate, exclusionary, political, militant is exported to the world. It is not limited to India. It is here in Germany. That's why certain things doesn't happen here. It is in US because that's why certain things doesn't happen here or certain things happen here. It is in UK, it is in Australia, it is everywhere. So this ideology is not limited to India anymore. This is a global threat. This is a global hate ideology. And if we try to speak in the terms of only India, then we are probably confining it to a geographical construct and leaving everywhere else they are doing what they want to do. And I also heard this, that whatever happens in diaspora, whether US, UK, Indian citizens get very impressed about it. If diaspora Indian Americans say something, it is like that must be true, or they get very impressed. Not only just say, but in last couple of elections, there are thousands of volunteers who actually travel from Western countries to India to do campaigning for BJP. And we all heard how much money comes to RSS and all the projects from global. So this is a global problem. And if we don't speak in the terms of what the real problem is, which is RSS, then we are just beating around the bushes. It is simply, I think we need to start talking about what the issue is. If we start talking about democracy, Professor Irfan has one opinion, somebody else has one opinion, it becomes a democracy discussion. I think let's talk about RSS. The ideology of RSS, exclusionary, militant, political ideology, and differentiating it very clearly with the individual. That we need to be very clear. Let's talk about RSS as an ideology, as a global threat. If we don't want to talk about it, then we can have all the academic conferences, everything. People we want to educate or make them understand may not understand. I think the first thing is raising the awareness. I think we need to start talking about what the area is. Thank you very much. I'm
So thank you so much, Rasheed, for extending not our debate, but our discussion with the terms of supremacy and exclusion. We have this discussion in Germany as well. We may get back to that when we share experience made in both countries. Well, if we would be in Germany, obviously this session would be over because at 7 o'clock it ends. But 17. But as not only German railway is delaying now, so we also are more flexible in time. So I invite you now to put your questions and your comments. We probably follow the rules set in the.
So basically, what we can do is let us try to finish this session at 5:50.
I would even give more time, 10 past 5. That's okay?
And if we can come back at 5:30, because I think that we have a very good,
Sure.
very good documentary.
We do so. So please feel invited. Christoph.
Yes, one question to Aman regarding Assam. Certainly, the problem is not only with BJP, but in the list of the guilty people, shouldn't we emphasize the role of the judiciary? And in the judiciary, the role of the Supreme Court, and in the Supreme Court, the role of Mr. Gogol. How would you explain the way he can somewhat precipitated or emphasized or amplified what was maybe not on the agenda of the BJP to that extent?
The problem did not start with him. I think the entire thing started with the Sonwar judgment. So it basically it supported or it ratified a narrative of large scale illegal migration into Assam. And I have read the Seema report, which is rapidly communal. It has been saying that there will be a demand for merger of this Muslim dominated district in Bangladesh. So if the Supreme Court is quoting those problematic report, it becomes easier for subsequent batches to quote from that report and then come up with something like NRC. If you read, his brother judge was Justice Rohita Nariman, and they came up with this order dated December 17, 2014, which basically paved the way for an NRC in Assam. So it accepted the narrative of large-scale illegal migration. And what happened in the NRC process, 1.9 million people were excluded. But the narrative was far higher than what is being said. So it basically proved the NRC wrong, the Supreme Court wrong, and there is no large-scale illegal migrants here. And who are these people who have been excluded? Who are these 1.9 million people? For example, my cousins, 3 of my cousins are not there in the NRC. Their parents are there in the NRC. This is that's how things are. I mean, uniform. This is a phenomenon in Assam. Like the entire family is there, the child is not there, or the woman, like I said, it's the entire process to prove your citizenship is gendered. The woman not be there in the NRC because she doesn't have the document to prove the being age. So it has basically busted the myth of illegal migration. The NRC process, of course, we paid a very heavy price. A lot of people have died, and this constant fear of losing citizenship, constant process of indignity, it has completely busted the myth of illegal migration in Assam. And look at the reaction, the political reaction. Immediately, the organizations who demanded an NRC, and they wanted an NRC to sort of evict these so-called illegal migrants. And when the number came only 1.9 million, and they said, we are not happy with this number. We want another round of NRC. And I will quote, because I got this opportunity, I will quote Mr. Himanta Biswa Sarma, who is now the Chief Minister. So he says on 24th of September 2019, this is after a month after, 23 days after the final list of NRC came in 2019. He says, addressing a BJP worker meet, Mr. Himanta Biswa Sarma said, let there be a case in the Supreme Court and we will say that BJP rejects this NRC. We do not believe in this NRC. Under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Amit Shah, there will be another NRC. Those laughing now will cry for sure. So they want to come up with another round of NRC where, like I say, that the numbers with, as they are saying, the number is 2 less. As I am saying that India has busted the myth of illegal migration. Apparently, we are laughing, and they will bring another round of NRC, and that's when we will try. And that's why initially I said that why this citizenship in Assam, citizenship issue in Assam, might actually redefine Indian democracy. Suppose tomorrow there is the NRC reopens. There is a so-called re-verification of the NRC. Because the day Mr. Himanta Biswa Sarma becomes the Chief Minister, the next day he filed an application before the Supreme Court for complete re-verification. Suppose by the, God forbid, that's my worst nightmare, God forbid, he succeeds in reopening the NRC. If 1.9 million number is less for them, if they are not happy with this number, to make them happy, the number will scale up. Suppose there is 4 million people who are excluded from the NRC. What will happen to India then? Kashmir, quote unquote, solved. They don't have anything to do with Ram Mandir anymore. This is the big problem they are now looking for. Okay. They want to exclude this many people so that there is a problem for a very long period of time.
Thank you. So I have 6 names on my list, 7, and I think I would like to 8, 9. Okay, but that's then the end, and with this we will finish our discussion. Mirza, please.
Like my name was also not in the first list of the NRC because there was a translation problem. Like from my name in English was translated to Assamese and the spelling changed, And after that, I have realized that many people in Assam now have actually changed their spellings. It's become a very, very psychological, issue that has actually seeped into many people, where people check their spelling because it all depends on the spelling of the name, And one thing, Seema Chishti's presentation, when you actually talk about Adani and Ambani controlling media, right from the Congress times, Himanta Biswa Sarma has been controlling the media in Assam, one of the major channels. And that a lot of politicians of the BJP now control media directly, and that is even a bigger challenge that we of course face.
Can we take Solomon also as contribution? No, you were saying? Okay.
I just had one small question. So just tell us a little bit more about your experience of as a journalist, because what I sense is this government does not believe in transparency or sharing information or even documents or respect documentation of any kind. Websites have changed, documents have been removed. So what does working like a journalist feel like in such a? How do you actually? Bureaucrats don't talk when you want to talk about it. How do you work as a journalist? What does life of a journalist look like?
One instant. Does that fit in your question, Harsh?
No, I can add a question.
Okay, so please.
Just very briefly, I really worry first, so I'm not a beat reporter anymore. I mean, I do try and report, but so it's really bad for beat reporters because people who depend on ministries for information, so you don't really get a government point of view. And you're either looking at propaganda or you're guessing, or you're just reporting on whatever is coming. And there's no opportunity to question people, like the standoff on the China border, for instance. There's been no briefing, so there's been no parliamentary discussion. So I think this has a debilitating kind of result on what history will make of what happened in India in these 10 years. So if I was to kind of be born 50 years from now on and be a historian or whatever at Heidelberg and look back at what happened, the records will tell me nothing. So it's actually a very successful way of actually just jettisoning any official proper record of questioning or of proper government information. So this has long term because even the best of kind of scholars and academics would rely on that little page 3 news, no? I mean, cyclists mowed down 3 dead or whatever report that you build on. So I think that's been very bad. So my personal experience has been quite rotten because they have there are only one-sided WhatsApp groups. We have, for example, the Election Commission of India has these, I'm on one of them. So it's quite odd because we keep asking questions and we don't get responses. And you peddle what they say. There are very few questions. And for some people, it's been even worse, like Mrs. Smriti Irani, who lost the election committee. She openly threatened somebody who was just asking her some question openly on live camera and said, I'll speak to the owner and make sure you lose your job. And he lost his job. So it has a huge impact on the writing of history 50 years later to job security, to just trying to lend some honesty to your job. So yeah, it's quite a challenging thing to be a really beat reporter or a journalist today.
Harsh?
Actually, excellent presentation that I've done many questions that really got to Seema. I still can't understand. I've heard, what's happened to the media. See, look at 3 or 4 critical moments. Look at 1973, the emergency. We didn't take it up, but there was a chaffing, there was a rebellion in multiple ways. 1992, another critical moment when there was, the media played its role, it told the truth. 1999, 2002, when Gujarat happened, and the difference between that and now, I've read the ideas, it's a very difficult battle. But the media was on my side, the Supreme Court was on my side, the National Human Rights Commission was on my side. It was still a very difficult battle. Today, I don't understand why the media has just so completely surrendered. Is it ideology? Because government control, government largesse, corporate ownership, all of this is not new. I can't understand why the media has become what it has. I haven't got an explanation.
So, before we have a lot of people interested in a lively debate. May I ask the housekeeper whether we can expand 2.5 minutes more with some room for extension?
That will be 5:15.
Okay.
And then, of course, it's a public good,
Yeah.
Whether we are discussing more or less Hindu supremacy, these are all public goods. So I think the choice is yours. I don't want to be a background.
So
I think it's all of the above. So unlike NOTA, it is AOTA, because I think to a large extent it's ideological. And the times you mentioned, it was like a Nehruvian kind of a world, if you like. The institutions were in place, and there's a rapid, first slowly and then suddenly, the Overton window has shifted. And for the reasons you yourself spoke of, we as a society, media can only express that. It of course determines that later too in its own ways, but it's a product of that. So I think all that we saw, which were weakenings, and I actually don't buy the fact that there was no democracy earlier. I think what we see now, there was hypocrisy, which was very good. People were kind of aspiring to say that those are the ideals. Right now, you have a regime which says that we don't believe all Indians are equal, which is against Article 14, Article 19. That's a very significant shift. If there is an inadequate kind of I'm jumping, trying to reach that target, I'm at least pretending I want to get there. From saying that, guys, all Indians aren't equal. If you're Hindu, you're more equal. That's a big shift. So we must be, I think, my humble opinion, be always cognizant of that. So I think the media has also shifted. It was ideologically run by the same business groups and all that who were traditional supporters of the BJP. There's been a coming out party. Technology has destroyed the economic revenue. The tanking of the Indian economy has made excess revenue, which made, the little supplements and shows and car shows and all possible, not possible. I think the mix of all of that, and also eyeballs. When I'm doing a show, I get I'm CNBC, some whatever channel, I get a show and I say, no, guys who can buy these goods, there'll be advertisers, that middle class, I think that upper class clientele which pays, also you produce more for them. So I think it's a mix of all of this. And in a sense, it's like a dipstick test of what's happened to Indian society as well. And certainly the elite and the societal shift, there's no doubt running away from that.
okay, for resonate a little bit our discussion, I would suggest that we take now 3 people from the audience to comment and to ask, and the second round with 3 others. Sorry.
I just wanted to add something to Aman's response to Christoph's question about judiciary and citizenship in Assam. Because it's a really interesting question, allows us to slightly unpack the social and caste composition of people who are driving these processes. So I think, at least in my observation, it seems judges, not just the Supreme Court, the High Court judges in Assam, who are invariably composed of people who consider themselves as Homeyan intellectuals and usually upper class. They often nudge and sometimes force the government and shame the government in public speeches or in courts to exclude people. In many ways, the foreigners' process is driven by these judges more than even the government. And I think that introduces a nuance in how we're thinking about democratization and also I think complicates Rasheed Bhai's point that these judges may not necessarily be driven by the same understanding of Hindu supremacy that is recognizable in certain RSS studies. There are little nationalisms in different parts of the country that also do very similar things. Sometimes they overlap and complement each other, sometimes they may not. And obviously, BJP's agenda is to sort of incorporate. But I would support more complexity and nuance in identifying how democracy.
Many thanks. Dieter?
Thank you for your presentations. I have a general question regarding the future of Indian democracy on the background of the election results in your respective areas of activity. So Northeast India, BJP was defeated in Manipur, so 2 seats go to Congress. In the media, maybe some colleagues who are very defensive, maybe now they are, and the idea maybe there is some more space. And the Indian diaspora are very much under pressure of global Hindutva, also in Germany. Is there any kind of new hope that after this half defeat, let's say, after the election, there is more space? So you can start.
One more.
Actually, it's just adding on something that you've already heard. So very quickly, I'm not being naive. After having understood everything, do you see anything really good happening now? Because there can't be like a monolithic news thing coming through as it was, let's face it, these last few years. So do you see things happening and are you more positive about this? I told you I was a positivist.
John?
That was more or less my question, actually. You painted a pretty impressive picture of the landscape. I mean, are there any sort of positives there? I guess I'm particularly concerned about what, as I understand that, there are quite a lot of really quite brave local journalists working in Indian languages, and that it's those guys who've been particularly, hit by different sorts of violence from the state. What are the prospects for people like that now? Do you see any possibility that their space is going to be safe?
I think primarily Indian democracy must be saved by Indians themselves. And in India, I think the only community maybe capable of doing it is Hindus. Muslims and Christians can help, they are helping whatever they can. Muslims can't save it, neither Christians can save it, or any other small man save it. So the responsibility, if Indian Hindus want, the India would be what Indian Hindus want in the long run. The Indian, what diaspora can do is, I think because of the fascist environment and practices in India, a lot of people, Hindus, Muslims, Christians, whatever they can do, they are doing it, even getting, murdered, going to jail, all kinds of people are doing it. I think they're doing as much as they can in India. I am sitting here, I can't judge or even say that they should do more. But what I can say is that I think they are doing a lot at the risk of their lives and families. But diaspora can do a lot more, because diaspora is not under that kind of threat. Diaspora wants to do more, there is a lot more space. There is a fear in India, but in diaspora there is more like, comfort. They don't want to get too uncomfortable. I don't know if diaspora would be as much in trouble if they speak about RSS or Indian democracy or BJP as an Indian citizen in India would be. So I think diaspora can do more, should do more. I hope that answers you.
About this question on Northeast, so this time the BJP is down by 5-6. Wiped out of Manipur, Nagaland, Meghalaya. So this election was about protecting the constitution. And what BJP did in Manipur, despite massive winning, they lost both the seats. In Nagaland, Congress doesn't have an organizational structure. Despite that, they won seats. But as I say that this election was about the protecting the constitution, also Bharat Jodo Yatra had huge impact in this state. So it will depend on how elections in these respective states are fought by the Congress and the opposition. So if they fight it well with good issues, I think we should be hopeful. Otherwise, do not underestimate the BJP.
So I think there's lots to be kind of said for what media can kind of take away from these results. And just the fact of, and I don't want to call this a YouTube election because that minimizes so much about India, which is supremely to be like respected and lauded. And the pushback that's happened. But because a lot of it was riding on independent small media and I'm not talking about large independent media, I'm talking about small places, which is almost like local Facebook pages, small places in whether it's in Kerala or Karnataka or in Assam, in UP that was happening, that it rode that completely, despite billions being poured into it, gives me great hope. from what I heard, I mean, I'll give you a small story, very remote East UP. And I didn't expect them to know where I was from. And I was covering a rally that Gorakhpur, Nishad, who lost eventually, but very spiritual campaign. And I went there and they said, where are you from? So I just went, why is that from wire? And they said, no, I know you. So I thought he says, I know you because aap bade logon ko pani pila dete hain, which translated means that you make the biggest people drink water. And I rang Karan Thakur, who's a very posh kind of English show guy. And I told him that despite your wretched bow tie, you're being kind of commended in remote Gorakhpur because you've been heard. Somewhere that clip goes. So technology has a way of getting ahead of even the most gagging things. So I think there's hope for us. And that's like great. And I'm kind of sorry that, it was my duty to bring to you what is the larger picture today. Of course, honorable exceptions accepted, but that unfortunately is the larger, the mainstream, if you like to call it, of big legacy media. The patient is not in good health. So I would be, reporting incorrectly if I told you that all was well, which is not to say that there's no hope. Of course, there is hope because from just like nonsense, the Kamal, as Mr. Modi says, the lotus rises out of, kitchen or a puddle or a dirty mess. So I think that there is hope there. There is young people who want to push back. I heard echoes. I heard Dhruv Rathi's name in again remotest of places. With Dhruv Rathi with his T-shirt, his Haryana focus, his very art-centric kind of politics. I didn't think he would reach out there and go so radical. So for me, that's hopeful. Ravish Kumar, of course, is the sort of groundswell from which so much we call him the Dilip Kumar of Indian journalism. But you know what he kind of also put out, his name being echoed there, and people being responsive to pushback journalism and recognizing that this kind of other journalism, which I've sketched out, is not to be looked at. So I think in that there is seeds of great stuff, but great work needs to be done. So I think for the future is great if we just embrace the opportunity and walk through the door. We managed to kick the door open thanks to the Indian public. In all sorts of ways, things have conspired to give us a result like this. But in a sense, like a newborn baby, we need to nurture it, and media has to play its role in kicking back. But yeah, it's not as if it's like a very depressing thing for us, but things are like quite bleak too. So I have to just say the two things at the same time.
The very last round, and to be fair to the next contribution, I would appeal to be as brief as possible, and please also take into mind that the conference is not over. It follows tomorrow.
Thanks very much, all three of you. Very brief question to Seema. You in some ways addressed this right now. My question is really about, is there any sort of sense of what the impact of the sort of BJP content creators like Dhruv Rathi, like Ravish, and others, what kind of impact it might have had over these elections?
Yeah, no.
And is this threat of the telecom bill, this OTT bill, season 10? I mean, is it really directed against them? How serious is this threat?
My name is Shabana, and I'm a student of electrical science. I am a question from Aman. So, what do you think? Is there any political motivation behind the NRC and ACP? Because which reflects the broader agenda of the ruling party, as well as the electoral outcomes. So, because maybe many of them could be voter of the ruling party as well. So, what do you think?
One instant.
Me?
Yeah.
I'm from Gujarat because there's so much talk about the fashion. See, I have some questions and some my 30 years of experience in this field of human rights. But just thinking about when you talk about the Babri Masjid demolition in 1992, and we all know that what happened in Surat, because it started from there. It was the beginning of my career as human rights activist. I am from the Dalit. So I was just thinking about that during that time, as you were saying, pointing out that Gujarat had Congress, the central government also was Congress. Now BJP takes out Yatra in Gujarat, and they say that it's a lab for us, right? And Advani comes and all things happen. And now when they attacked the mosque, it was the day when the Dr. Ambedkar's death anniversary, that's 6th December. So nobody talks about that caste dimension building, like how you are targeting and sentimenting the community, which is also like similar to what the population of Muslims is more than. That's one question. The other thing is also about what my own experience of heading a very large organization in Gujarat, focusing on the caste issue. I have done a lot of sting operations for the in 90s and 20s. And like one of the news channels, Aajkal, which has become like a Bodhi India. We are done for them, and we focused on the issue of caste-based discrimination in Gujarat. And where we brought a new study which came of in 2010 around understanding underprivileged. And I was just thinking around that how does, because I have worked a lot, but then Modi was not in picture. Everybody says that Modi was not in picture before 2002. Yes, I do know. I was also working in the relief camps in 2002, and I was a camp leader in the place where most of the people there who were impacted by the communal genocide were brought in. I had to face risk also because I had to leave my parents' house in 99 because one of the outfits of RSS, the VHP, Vishwa Hindu Parishad, they attacked my office because I was organizing modern laborers, both Adivasis and Dalits. So I have a journey of my own experience, and I just want to say that, yeah, there is a big shift in the media. So 90s and 20s were different, but from 2010 or like maybe how do we talk about the film which was made by Rakesh Sharma on the genocide on final solution? How do we our own understanding about the politics around the ruling government also shifts because how BJP came into power in Gujarat from 1995 and it is still there, right? So, and they want to make a model of Gujarat, as we say, JP Nadda is saying that it should be across the country, and that's what they are trying to do. So these are some questions which I am raising also, that when we're talking about minorities, because we all the speakers are from the Muslim community, but there is sorry, the other area is also about.
So please.
So just want to add that attacks on Christians also happened, right? 1919 in Gujarat by the VHPs, by the Hurts. And how they attack the schools run by the Christian missionaries. I think we also need to focus on those issues as well. And how do we deal with when we talk about Hindu nationalism and you say all Hindus can do what? Hindus, which Hindus we are talking about? We are talking about dominant caste Hindus. We are not talking about what Manishankarji said about SC/ST parliamentarians. What role do they play? Where do they have space? We want to talk about it. There is a dialogue, debate between Gandhi and Ambedkar about separate economies, right? So I think we need to also be very critical about our own experiences and our own understanding of our social identity.
Who would like to start?
Yeah, so answering your question, see, NRC didn't come out of the blue. There was a huge movement, political movement, to make people believe that there are a large number of illegal migrants in Assam. Almost everyone believed that there are millions of illegal migrants. And in the last four decades, almost every election in Assam have been fought on citizenship issue. So of course, I mean, these are politically motivated. It was ordered by the Supreme Court, but then by then, the political movements have established this false narrative to be true. And of course, CA, of course, there is a political motivation. I mean, you all know that. I just want to extend more on this.
I forgot your first question, and the answer to the second question is, of course, yes. The OTT thing is important, and the big difference is, see, Congress also, we've all worked in the very controlling Congress governments in states, threatening governments, and in the center and all that, all kinds of things were told. It was never a totalitarian control. Complete abuse by the executive. We must be cognizant of the differences. It's tempting to kind of paint and tar people by the same brush, but we may be making huge mistakes in understanding the nature of the current threat. At present, if we kind of tar the Congress will have huge ills, have huge issues with them. But the nature of this totalitarian control, they really mean a total control. You will not speak or say anything. You'll be head down and just do what I'm telling you to. So that it's surely for that. What was the first question?
No, I was just saying, what was sort of really, what is your sense in terms of the impact people like Ramesh?
Yes, I think huge. Huge impact, because I think everybody's on social much more than the BJP would like them to be for their reasons of, they have about 150,000 WhatsApp groups as per Washington Post report and just Karnataka, etc. But that is like hugely subverted by the availability of digital elsewhere. So a lot of other imagination, like what you mentioned, etc., is also possible. Those discussions are possible. The fact that somebody deep in UP is talking about Vivek Beberoy's op-ed on the constitution needing to be amended, which he not read, but he knows that he said it. That is traveled down. So I think tech, availability of data, phones, and unintended consequence of the new world, if you like, is having very interesting consequences. And we must grab what we can.
Rasheed?
I don't think there was any.
Okay.
She was just making comment.
So many thanks. We are at the end of this session. And I thank you very much for being concentrated and focused on the issue and also for your attendance. It's a little bit longer than foreseen. I might hire with a German railway, perhaps. What left?
Chairman.
What left?
It was impossible. How?
Simply, I would like to share one last remark. It really raised my respect, listening to you, to the wisdom of the Indian voters.
I think we try to bring another question so that we can